Salatu wassalam ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rabbish rahli sadri waisirli amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. A'udzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. 4 days ago, Palash, Moidul Islam Palash, from 38 batch, he lost his father. And on that day, about 160 to 170,000 people left the world. So he knew somebody who died. And every day, 160 to 170,000 people leave the world. We may or may not know somebody on a given day who leaves the world, but every day, that many number of people are leaving. And one day, our relatives will die, we will die. 100 years ago, nobody who is alive today was in the world possibly. And 100 years from today, nobody who is alive today will be in the world possibly. But the world will continue. And what we will take with us is, number one, our deeds, good or bad, and sadqa zariyah that we did, sadqa that will do us good in the future. And if we have been able to leave behind good children who are connected to Allah Ta'ala, or we have been able to learn ilm, knowledge that can take us closer to Allah Ta'ala, and people we have been able to teach or actually convey the message so that they will pray for us. So these are the 4 avenues, or 3 avenues actually. Our book of deeds will remain open. Our own personal deeds will come to an end. But if we have been able to do these other things, then the benefit will accrue from those other fields. And this endeavor of us for the last 14 months or so is so that we can acquire the requisite ilm, and we are charged by the power so that we can act on the ilm. Know Allah, know His might and power, know that we have to stand before Him one day, so that we are motivated to worship Him. When the issue of standing before Him and giving hisab of our deeds comes, then we will be motivated to act. We have to give hisab to Him one day. That means we have to act. Otherwise, all that we acquire in this world, in terms of wealth, in terms of power, in terms of fame, will all stay behind if we have not used what we have acquired in the way ordered by Allah Ta'ala and in the way shown by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So basically, our life is supposed to be geared towards the obedience of Allah in the way shown by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which means we have to acquire the ilm. That's why acquisition of ilm is obligatory on us, and obligatory on our children, and obligatory on our relatives. So we have to tell them, and obligatory on our friends. So we have to tell them if they don't know. And when we tell these things to the people that we know, to the people that we love, our near and dear ones, we are charged first and foremost. The effect is on us first and foremost. You will see that the people who keep on calling others, they are the ones for whom the doors of guidance are opened as per the promise of Allah in the Quran. If you make the effort of guidance, we will surely open the doors of guidance for you. So from last session until today, I basically wanted to give you a broad brush reminder of what are the things we have to do after Ramadan, given that the most insidious, dangerous shayateen are unchained now. So what are some of the things that we should do? It's basically no different than what we have to do during Ramadan. And that's the same thing that we have to do after Ramadan. That means submitting to the worship of Allah in the way shown by Rasulullah, which means acquiring ilm, continuing to acquire ilm, and this ilm will not only strengthen our Iman, it will also beautify our akhlaq, our character, and will help us to acquire character per excellence. So towards the end, I was talking about akhlaq. What is husni akhlaq? Once Rasulullah was asked, I heard from a scholar, and I heard it so many times from him. He's a very learned scholar. And Rasulullah boiled it down to 3 characteristics that somebody wants to break his relationship with you. You try to join the relationship, number 1. Number 2, somebody does not meet his responsibilities to you. You try to meet your responsibilities towards him. So to join ties of kinship, we need to forgive. And to meet our responsibilities to people who do not meet their responsibilities to us, we need to forgive. And the third thing he said is that if somebody hurts you, you forgive him. Forgive him. That is on a personal capacity, personal capacity. If somebody, he's in the habit of hurting people, we need to warn people about that. But if somebody has hurt me only, I have the prerogative to forgive him, and then I will be on a higher plane in the sight of Allah. And then Rasulullah is reported to have said, if somebody has these 3 qualities, he will come to me on the day of judgment and get from me the key to Jannatul Firdaus. Key to Jannatul Firdaus. And all 3 that he said are not impossible. They are difficult to practice on, to join ties of kinship, to meet responsibilities, even when somebody is not meeting responsibility towards me, and to forgive somebody when somebody is hurting me. These are difficult, but not impossible. But look at the reward they bear. And in this world, we want to be on a higher level in terms of all aspects, whether it is a house or a car or money or power or connection or fame. We want to be better off than the next person. We are in an intense competition for more acquisition. Why not for the akhirah? We will be if we had that level of Iman about the akhirah. People commit sins. Why? People torture others. Why? People oppress others. Why? Lack of fear of accountability. When there is fear of accountability, we obey worldly rules and regulations. That shows that we have that fear in us. When we have fear of accountability in front of Allah, we will obey His commandments. Once Rasulullah asked the companions, if you are supposed to get something and you do not get it, what will you do? And the Sahaba, Radiallahu anhu ajmain, who were present, they said, we will draw our sword and we will acquire what we are supposed to get with our sword, meaning forcibly. Rasulullah said, do not do that. Let me teach you something better. He said something to the effect, come to me on the day of judgment and I will get for you something that will be much better than your worldly acquisition by force. I will get for you from Allah. Basically, he was saying, don't get into unnecessary quarrel. Once he was asked towards the end of his Nabuwa, he was asked by Amr bin Afsa, what is Islam? And this is towards the end of his Nabuwa. In the beginning, he would say about the 5 pillars of Islam. But this is when the 5 pillars have been established, and the walls and the roof and the foundation and the doors and the windows and the furniture are all there. He's saying, what is Islam? He's saying, feeding people and sweet talk. Mishti kotha. Feeding people and sweet talk. And then the person asks, what is Iman? And he answers, sabr and forgiving, adopting patience and forgiving. And then the person asks a third question, Amr bin Afsa, what is exalted Islam, exalted form of Islam, high form of Islam? Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, not to hurt anybody with your hands or your mouth. All 3 relating to akhlaq. Feeding people and sweet talk related to akhlaq, and sabr and forgiving related to akhlaq, and not to hurt anybody with your hands or tongue related to akhlaq. And the person asks finally, what is exalted Iman? Iman. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is reported to have said, Husne akhlaq is exalted Iman. Akhlaq is so important. It helps us in meeting our responsibilities towards Allah as well as responsibilities towards fellow human beings. It's at the apex, the height of human development. And what he did was, by developing Iman and Amil Salihah, and by being an example before them, example of Husn Akhlaq before them, the best of Husn Akhlaq, example of Husn Akhlaq before them, what he did was he converted those dangerous, fiery people who were going towards Jahannam, turned them 180 degrees towards the path of Jannah. He turned their qualities totally. The people who used to fight with each other over small issues, your camel drank from my pond, and they start fighting, and the fighting continues for 20 years, 40 years, over small issues. Such violent people, he turned them so much so, I'm reminding about the story that a person goes, his cousin was in the battle, and his cousin does not return. So he thinks that his cousin might be in the throes of death and might need water. He goes to give water to his cousin to drink, and his cousin is about to drink the water. He's about to die, but about to drink the water, and somebody else cries from nearby saying, water, water, and his cousin does not drink the water and points out to the next person, go and give the water to the next person, simply points out, he's too weak to talk. And this cousin who brings water goes to the second person, and when the second person is about to drink, and a third person groans out, water, water, and the second person points out to the third person, go and give it to the third person. And this person who brought water goes to the third person and he finds the third person has died. He runs to the second person, finds the second person has died, runs to the first person, his cousin, the cousin has died. All three die, nobody takes water. And there are so many stories of their husn akhlaq that we hear from the companions, the lives of the companions, all learned from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He's the best example for us, for husn akhlaq, his life. That's why in the last session, I had so much emphasized. And the brother, especially for whom I had mentioned, he wasn't there in the last session also. And prior to that, in 2 other sessions, I said that it is very important for us not only to know the order of Allah, we have to study the seerah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the life the book in which it details how he followed every aspect of the order of Allah. His sunnah in every aspect of personal and private and public life. Because that is what we need to apply in our daily life. Even when we are alone in our house, nobody sees us. We have to practice the sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And how do we do it? Unless we seek that ilm. There's something called beneficial ilm. Allahumma saluka imanan kamilan yaqinan sadika ilman nafiya. Give me beneficial ilm. We have so much ilm, all of us are highly accomplished. Highly accomplished. And that creates at least one particular problem when we feel that we are highly accomplished. And the problem is the feeling that comes with it, that I am something. That egotism, amitto, I am something. That's a big problem. Worldly achievement carries with it that big problem. I'm nothing. Came from impure fluid. I came from dust, and I will go back to dust. So after akhlaq, a few words about shaitan. We spent so many sessions on the tricks of shaitan and how to guard against the tricks of shaitan as per Quran and Sunnah. We talked about the story of creation and the promise of shaitan that he will take us to hellfire, and Allah Ta'ala said that you will not be able to take those who obey me. And shaitan asked for some powers, and he was given those powers because of all the worship that he did. And to test us. Shaitan is there to test us. And the problem is we don't see him. And the other problem is he's busy 24 hours in trying to devise ways to distract us, to detract us, to derail us, and to destroy us. 24 hours he is busy. And the other problem is he can get inside us like blood flows through our body, and he can know our weaknesses. And when we talked about the nature of man under Islam, complete code of life, I could list with my very limited knowledge, 23 weaknesses, citing verses from the Quran. Allah Ta'ala mentions that are the weaknesses of human beings that shaitan uses. And there are so many other, I'm sure, so many other weaknesses that I have not been able to unearth. So that's another problem, that he knows our weaknesses. And there are so many of them. We also have to know our weaknesses and guard it against shaitan and seek the help of Allah against these weaknesses. So he's given the power to get into our thought process, create whisperings, and motivate us, inspire us to disobey Allah and to do acts that are forbidden, haram, and also, put in our heart riya or bid'ah, innovation, and so many other tricks that he has, or put in our heart that Allah is most merciful, he will forgive you. Or so ask forgiveness later on. Do it. Do what you're doing. Do it a second time. Do it a third time. Enjoy. And at some point you ask for forgiveness, but that point may never come. We may suddenly die, or our heart might be hardened such that we do not ask for forgiveness at all. And every day, we are told that Iblis gets a report from his cadre and asks them, what have you done? I have made somebody tell a lie. Good. What have you done? I have made somebody commit adultery. Good. What have you done? I've done this, and so on and so forth. What have you done? I have caused two people to fight with each other, and that is what pleases Shaitan the most. When we become angry, we will without doubt be under the control of Shaitan. Once Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was bearing abuse from somebody. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting there. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not replying. At one point, he could not withstand anymore. He started responding to the accusations of the other Sahabi. That's when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam got up and walked away. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, seeing this, he sensed that there is some trouble. He runs behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asks him, why did you walk away? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, as long as you were not responding, Shaitan was at a distance. When you started responding, Shaitan came near, and I cannot stay there. Shaitan cannot make us stop worship. He cannot force us, but he can create whisperings, showing off, feeling of showing off. And going against that is a big jihad. Going against our nafsaniyat, urgings of our base instincts, like hatred and jealousy and hatred, is a big jihad. Constantly fighting against our base desires. And when somebody has hatred against somebody, harbors hatred, it is one of the conditions of acceptance of dua that we cleanse our heart. A heart that has hatred, the dua of that heart will not be accepted. Pride and arrogance, Shaitan tries to infuse that. I am good, I am better than the other person. I am something that I was talking about a short while ago. There's the movement towards destruction, that egotism, journey towards destruction. And I don't remember if I've pointed out that envy and jealousy or hatred comes when somebody possesses something and we don't possess that. And we should tell ourselves, if somebody has something, why should I feel jealous about that? Allah Ta'ala will question that person. That person will have to give hisab. I don't have that. I won't have to give hisab. It's good for me. And pride and arrogance comes when we have something that others don't have. Somebody else does not have. That creates pride and arrogance, nurtures pride and arrogance in us. And again, that is bad, because who gave it? Allah gave me something, whether it is strength or power or education or money or house, beautiful car. Allah gave. So what is there to be proud about? Allah gave me the position that I'm in to serve his creation. Allah gave the money to serve his creation. Allah gave me the power to serve his creation, not for my own sake. And these are not acquired based on my abilities. There are no inherent abilities in me other than what Allah gave me. As there are no inherent powers in the world other than what Allah Ta'ala empowers something. That is La ilaha illallah. So we fail to see that. When somebody has something, Allah gave him. He will be answerable, accountable. If Allah gave me something, I will be accountable for that, how I used it. And as we mentioned earlier, we know it, that somebody who has a particle of arrogance will not enter paradise. That means he will be roasted in hellfire. And after he has been cleansed of the arrogance, he will be brought to heaven at some point, to Jannah at some point. That is my understanding of that, of that hadith. In case the person has good deeds. So arrogance is so bad. Arrogance is something that took shaitan, that derailed shaitan completely, that took shaitan to the disobedience of Allah, in spite of his hundreds of thousands of years of worship, in spite of, as scholars say, his sohbat with the angels, companionship with the angels, arrogance. And the second thing is that he tried to justify his action and did not seek forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala. Adam alayhi salam disobeyed Allah and immediately sought forgiveness from Allah Ta'ala. So to crush arrogance is a big jihad. To crush every aspect of our baser instincts, or to control. You know, we should have anger. It's not that we should totally eliminate anger. There are situations in which we need to be angry. But we have to keep these in control so that they do not use us. We use them when needed in the proper manner, in the way shown by Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the way to crush our arrogance, our pride, is to say that I came from dust, I will go back to dust. I came from a speck of impure fluid in the womb of the mother. What is it that I have to be arrogant about? I eat and every day I have to go to toilet to discharge what I eat. Every day. That is the type of material we are made of, and we are arrogant. So egotism is what I say that is right. And that cannot be that I'll be always right. So to crush it is a big jihad. We do not know what will happen in the next moment. Whether we will be walking, breathing, eating, or whether we will be in the grave. There's no knowledge about that. So craving for worldly things. In Bengali, we say lobh. Lalosha moho, kam. That is related to sexual desires, lust. Anger, an extreme form of it is called krodh. Korbo ahankar, pride and arrogance. Hingsha biddesh, envy, jealousy, hatred. Shaitan uses these. We used to have those types of toys when we were small, in which you would wind key in the toy, and then you leave the toy, it will unwind and it will play. It will make sound. It will walk. Nowadays, these are all battery operated. So shaitan does something like this. Chabi ghurai, tarpore chhere deয়. And then we play to the tune of shaitan. Unless we have control over these. We recognize these, we have control over these. And these are just 9 of 23 that we went over. And there are so many others that Allah Ta'ala must have mentioned in the Quran, our weaknesses. And in one place, it is mentioned that shaitan says, I play with people as children play with marbles. And, whenever we do something, we start something, we say Bismillah, we enter the house or we leave the house. And there are other sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We wear a dress, and there's also dua for going to the toilet. There's dua for eating, and so on and so forth, for drinking, even for taking milk or other types of food. And there's so much to learn. But whenever a waswas, whispering, comes into our ears, I heard from a scholar that we say, Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim 3 times. We turn our face to the left, and we do the act of spitting, not spitting, but the act of spitting 3 times. 2, 2, 2. Turning our face to the left. And it is tested that the thought will go away. So the urgings of the baser instincts are there. And to make continuous effort against those urgings is a big jihad. And one of the aspects that I will, and these are broad brushes, as I said. These are not a detailed listing of what we should be doing, but broad brushes. A reminder of some of the things that we discussed earlier. So one of the things we should be careful about is proper use of the tongue. There's a hadith that is narrated that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once asked Muaz bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, "O Muaz, shall I teach you the gist of deen?" And Muaz radiallahu anhu said, "Yes, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam." And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then held out his tongue and touched his tongue with 2 fingers. And he said, control this. Control your tongue. If your tongue is in control, your deen will be in control. And if your tongue is not in control, your deen will not be in control. And Muaz radiallahu anhu, I read somewhere that he was such a scholar that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is teaching him deen in this simple manner. So Muaz radiallahu anhu asks, Ya Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, will people enter hellfire because of misuse of the tongue, improper use of words? And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, yes, many people. We have to be very careful about what we say, because you see, sweet words can join hearts and is sweeter than honey. And strong words, scathing words are more poisonous than the most poisonous poison that we have in the world. So what we should do, we should, with the tongue, we should use sweet words. We should tell the truth. Do not bear false witness. Do not lie. And in one place in the Quran, it is mentioned something like this, that give truthful evidence, even if it is against you or your parents or your relatives, something to the effect. Give truthful evidence, even if it is against you. We praise people rather than talk ill of them behind them, which is ghiba. We should try to protect the respect of a Muslim, even in his absence, and not to withstand disrespect, nor do we disrespect a Muslim in front of others or behind him. I read somewhere, I cannot recall exactly from where, that if somebody in front of whom a Muslim is disrespected does not come to the protection of that Muslim, Allah Ta'ala on the Day of Judgment will disrespect this person who does not protect his fellow brother. We give good advice, and we do not bear complaint or grievance or express it. Somebody asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I want to be the most honorable of men. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam responded, do not complain to any of your fellow creators. You will be the most honorable of men. We hide the secret of men. We hide their secrets. If they have any fault, we try to hide it. And if it is something that does not harm others, when it is something that harms others, we should warn others. We try to hide the secrets of people, and it is said somewhere that on the day of judgment, Allah Ta'ala will hide the secret of this person who hides the secret of other people. We keep away from talking ill of people. We keep away from quarreling. And we keep our tongue busy with the zikr of Allah all the time. And then we should be aware about the sunnah of the heart. We should cleanse our heart and cleanse it morning and evening, as it comes in one narration, which involves forgiving people. Bear no grudge against people, no complaint. We suppress the urgings of our baser instincts, nafsaniyat, lob, lalosha, moho, kam, krodh, garbo, ahankar, hinsha, biddesh, the urgings of the baser instincts. It is said that if you can put one foot on your baser instincts, the other foot would be in paradise. Somebody asked Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I want to be the most just person. The most just person, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, ask for others what you ask for yourself. Want for others what you want for yourself. To Anas bin Malik, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, shall I tell you about my exalted sunnah? And Anas bin Malik said, yes, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if possible. Why? Because it is difficult. So that's why he used the term, if you can. Cleanse your heart morning and evening, every day until you die. This is my sunnah. Everything that he did is his sunnah. But he's saying in this case that this is my sunnah, cleansing the heart. We know about cleansing the body, and we cleanse the body. We cleanse the house, we cleanse our clothing. But we are not aware that we need to cleanse our heart, because the heart would stink and the angels would not come near. Cleanse your heart morning and evening. This is my sunnah. One who acts on my sunnah loves me, and one who loves me will live with me in paradise. One hadith, if we can act on, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, that person will live with me in paradise. Cleansing the heart morning and evening, every day until you die. There was one Sahabi I heard from a scholar. His name is Abu Dujana. He fought in all the battles with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, prayed behind him, did fast with him in Ramadan, and went to Hudaybiyah, fought in the Battle of Badr. And then you know about Battle of Badr, Allah Ta'ala said, if those who took part in Battle of Badr, if they do not do any good deed after that day, they will still be in paradise. But they did not stop their good deeds. And those who took part in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when he was going for Hajj the first time, uh, Allah Ta'ala said that he's pleased on them, something to the effect. So he took part in all of these and went for Hajj also with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But he used to say that I do not think I can put before Allah Ta'ala, place before Allah Ta'ala on the day of judgment, all these actions that I took part in. I think there are two acts that I can put before Allah Ta'ala on the day of judgment for my salvation. Two acts. If he had said, I fought in the Battle of Badr, we could not have taken part in that, or all the other battles. We could not have taken part in that. Or if I prayed behind Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we could not have taken part in that. Or I went for Hajj with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we could not have taken part in that. He says two things that all of us can act upon. All of us, every human being. They're difficult, but not impossible. He said, with my tongue, I have not hurt anybody in my life. How many of us can say that? But is that impossible? I did not hurt anybody with my mouth, with my words. Secondly, I do not, it's not that, let me add this, it's not that nobody created a situation in which he could have become embroiled in quarrel or in tough words. He simply kept away. He simply kept away from quarrel. And secondly, I do not bear grudge against anybody. Against anybody. No grudge, no ill feeling. That means he forgives everybody. And the effect of all these good qualities, husn akhlaq, is that it foils the efforts of shaitan. It enables us to obey Allah, and it foils the efforts of shaitan. And it foils the urgings of the baser instincts. And it foils the attractions of dunya. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam once asked, what is the action that is dearest to Allah Ta'ala, most loved by Allah Ta'ala? This is as per one scholar, that's why I cannot cite the source. And the Sahaba said different actions, from salat to jihad to sadaqah. And every time Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, it is very exalted, but not the most. And finally, nobody could answer. And then he said, the love that you bear for each other, that is most beloved to Allah Ta'ala, for the sake of Allah. And we have referred to this in the past. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and I think this is in Tirmizi, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned about, gave guarantee of paradise for 3 persons, guarantee of paradise on the boundary of paradise for the person who does not lie even out of fun, on the boundary of paradise. And in the middle of paradise for the person who gives up quarrel, even if he's right. And on the highest paradise for the person who acquires husn akhlaq. And I just wanted to stop at 45, and it is 45. I don't want to continue any further. I just want to remind you about the 6 fasting prescribed for this month. Not obligatory, but it is said that one who fasts in the month of Ramadan and fasts during 6 days during this month, it is as if he fasted the whole year. And also want to remind, based on hadith in Muslim or Bukhari or both, that we do not fast only on Friday. That's for the whole year. Not only on Friday, add 1 more day to Friday. either Thursday and Friday or Friday and Saturday. So I think Maidul Islam Palash is here. He lost his father 4 days ago, as I mentioned in the beginning. This seeking knowledge that we undertook for 45 minutes carries great weight. It's an obligatory act in the eyes of in the eyes of Allah Ta'ala. And we will convey whatever virtue is there. We will invoke Allah Ta'ala to convey those virtues to the father of Palash and all our near and dear ones who have passed away, our friends, or anybody associated with RCC. And for all Muslims, there'll be no reduction in the reward for anybody, by the way. And we pray for all Muslims suffering in different parts of the world, all people suffering under oppression and suppression, whether it is a Muslim or a non-Muslim, the du'as of an oppressed person reaches Allah Ta'ala and He answers their dua. It doesn't have to be Muslim. So we pray for suffering people, especially Muslims suffering in different parts of the world. And we pray for all of us living, all Muslims, their forgiveness and the hidayat of all mankind. That Allah Ta'ala forgives us, Allah Ta'ala gives guidance to all mankind and gives the tawfiq that people can seek His forgiveness so that He can remove the difficulties that we are in. I will request everybody to recite Surah Fatiha once and Qul Hu Allah, Surah Ikhlas 3 times, and then we will pray inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghairil maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Before I go to dua, let me remind you that after the dua, if Palash wants to say a few words on his father, Janab Muhammad Rafiqul Islam, he can do that. And then just for 5 minutes plus minus, Tawheed will speak on the first of the hadith, 40 ahadith in the book of Imam An-Nabawi, actions are by intentions. So he'll speak about that for 5 minutes, and he based on request, he will speak about each of the 40 hadiths over the next 39, 40 weeks. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, jazallahu anna Muhammadan, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, La ilaha illallahul halimul kareem, subhanallahi rabbil arshil azim, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, asaluka mujibati rahmatika wa ghaima maghfiratika wa ghanimata min kulli birri wa salamata min kulli ithm. La tadalana zamban illa ghafartahu wa la hamman illa farajtahu wa la marizan illa shifaitahu wa la dainan illa kazaitahu wa la mujahidan illa nasartahu wa la mazluman illa nasartahu wa la musliman illa rahimtahu. ولا حاجة هي لك رضا إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. أنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربي العلي الأعلى الوهاب. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقي ورضا نفسي وزنة عرشي ومداد كلماتي. ও আল্লাহ, তুমি আমাদেরকে যা কিছু আমল করার তৌফিক দিয়েছো আল্লাহ, ও আল্লাহ, যা কিছু বলার এবং শোনার তৌফিক দিয়েছো আল্লাহ, সমস্ত কিছুর ভুল ভ্রান্তি সংশোধন করে তোমার শাহী দরবারে কবুল করো আল্লাহ, এবং তার সওয়াব রাসূল করিম সাল্লাল্লাহু আলাইহি ওয়াসাল্লামের কাছে পৌঁছে দিও আল্লাহ। এবং আমাদের এবং বিশেষ করে জনাব মোহাম্মদ রফিকুল ইসলাম সাহেব, যিনি তোমার কাছে পৌঁছে গিয়েছেন আল্লাহ, উনার রুহের কাছে পৌঁছে দিও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, ও আল্লাহ, উনার কবরকে জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসের বাগান বানিয়ে দিও আল্লাহ, উনার কবরকে প্রশস্ত করে দিও আল্লাহ, নূর দিয়ে পরিপূর্ণ করে দিও আল্লাহ, উনার কবরের আযাব মাফ করে দিও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, তোমার কাছে অতি বিনয়ের সাথে, বিনীতভাবে, আকুতি মিনতির সাথে আমরা হাত উঠিয়েছি আল্লাহ। তার সন্তানও হাত উঠিয়েছে আল্লাহ, অন্যান্য আত্মীয় স্বজন হয়তো হাত উঠিয়েছে আল্লাহ। তুমি আরহামুর রাহিমিন, পরম করুণাময়, পরম দয়ালু আল্লাহ। يا فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة. والله والله يا قاضي الحاجات يا رافع الدرجات يا حلال المشكلات يا موجب الدعوات برحمتك نستغيث আল্লাহ। উনার প্রতি তোমার সর্বোত্তম ব্যবহার দেখিও আল্লাহ, এবং আমাদের আত্মীয় স্বজন, প্রিয়জন, নিকটজন যারা পিতামাতা সহ, দাদা দাদি, নানা নানি, চাচা চাচি, ফুপা ফুপু, খালা খালু, মামা মামি, আত্মীয় স্বজন, বন্ধু বান্ধব, শিক্ষক শিক্ষার্থী, পাড়া প্রতিবেশী আল্লাহ, আমাদের কলেজের সাথে জড়িত যারা আল্লাহ, তোমার কাছে তথা সমস্ত মুসলমান আল্লাহ, সবার কাছে পৌঁছে দিও আল্লাহ সমস্ত সওয়াব আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, তাদের প্রতি তোমার সর্বোত্তম ব্যবহার দেখিও কবরে এবং হাসরের ময়দানে, এবং পুলসিরাত বিদ্যুতের গতিতে পার করে দিও আল্লাহ, এবং বিনা হিসাবে জান্নাতুল ফেরদৌসে দাখিল করো আল্লাহ। আমাদের পিছনের গুনাহ মাফ করো, আমাদের সামনের গুনাহ মাফ করো, আমাদের উন্নত স্তরের ঈমান দান করো আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, সত্যিকারের ঈমান দান করো, মজবুত ঈমান দান করো, যাতে আমাদের আমল সুন্দর হয় আল্লাহ। ইলমের সাথে জুড়ে রেখো আল্লাহ মৃত্যু পর্যন্ত আল্লাহ। উঠতে বসতে যাতে তোমার কথা মতো চলতে পারি, এবং তোমার স্মরণের সাথে উঠতে বসতে পারি আল্লাহ। প্রত্যেকটা কাজ তোমার হুকুম মতো করতে পারি, এবং তোমার নবীর সুন্নত মতো করতে পারি আল্লাহ, এবং তোমার প্রতি দায়িত্ব সম্পূর্ণভাবে পালন করতে পারি, যাতে তুমি আমাদের উপরে সন্তুষ্ট হও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, এবং তোমার বান্দার প্রতি দায়িত্ব সম্পূর্ণভাবে পালন করতে পারি সেই তৌফিক দান করো আল্লাহ, এবং প্রতিটা কাজ তোমার সন্তুষ্টি সহকারে করতে পারি আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, তোমার ভালোবাসা সহ করতে পারি সেই তৌফিক দান করো। তোমার ভালোবাসা আমাদের অন্তরে দান করো, তোমার হাবিবের ভালোবাসা আমাদের অন্তরে দান করো আল্লাহ, এবং প্রতিটা মুহূর্তে আমাদেরকে শয়তান থেকে হেফাজত রেখো, শয়তানের ধোঁকার থেকে এবং নফসের তাড়না থেকে এবং দুনিয়ার চাকচিক্যের থেকে হেফাজতে রেখো আল্লাহ। এই সব শক্তির বিরুদ্ধে আমাদের কোনো শক্তি নাই আল্লাহ, তোমার শক্তি ছাড়া আল্লাহ। প্রতিটা মুহূর্তে তুমি আমাদেরকে হেফাজত করো আল্লাহ, এবং আমাদেরকে হাত ধরে কবর পর্যন্ত নিয়ে যেও আল্লাহ, এবং শয়তানের শেষ চেষ্টা ব্যর্থ করে কলেমা সহ আমাদের যাতে মৃত্যু হয় আল্লাহ, এবং সেই সময় মৃত্যু হয় যখন তুমি সন্তুষ্ট থাকো আমাদের উপরে, আমাদের জীবদ্দশায় যাতে আমাদের জীবন যাতে পরিচালিত করতে পারি তোমার সন্তুষ্টি সহকারে, আমাদের মৃত্যু যাতে তোমার সন্তুষ্টি সহকারে হতে পারে আল্লাহ। যখন তুমি আমাদের সাথে সাক্ষাৎ করার জন্য উৎসুক থাকো তখন যাতে মৃত্যু হয় আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, তুমি আমাদেরকে আপন করে নাও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, তুমি সহজ না করলে এই কঠিন পৃথিবী আল্লাহ, আকর্ষণীয় পৃথিবীর থেকে এবং শয়তানের ধোঁকার থেকে এবং নফসের তাড়নার থেকে আমাদের বাঁচার কোনো সম্ভাবনা নাই আল্লাহ। আমাদের ধ্বংস অনিবার্য, তুমি যদি না বাঁচাও আল্লাহ। তুমি আমাদেরকে রক্ষা করো আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, আপন করে নাও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, ও আল্লাহ, ও আল্লাহ। আল্লাহুম্মা ইন্নাকা আফুউন কারীম তুহিব্বুল আফওয়া ফা'ফু আন্না। ও আল্লাহ, কত মানুষ দুনিয়াতে কত কষ্টের মধ্যে আছে, প্রত্যেকটা মুসলমানকে তুমি হেফাজত করো আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, সবাই সবাই চারিদিকে শকুনের মতো আমাদের খাওয়ার জন্য প্রতিটা মুহূর্তে অপেক্ষা করছে আল্লাহ। আমাদেরকে কিভাবে গ্রাস করতে পারে আল্লাহ, তুমি রক্ষা করো আল্লাহ। আমাদেরকে সেই ইমানের মজবুতি দাও আল্লাহ। তুমি বলেছো যে তুমি বলেছো তোমার দায়িত্ব ইমানদারদের রক্ষা করা, সাহায্য করা আল্লাহ। আমাদের সেরকম ইমান দাও, যদি ইমান না থাকে সেরকম, যেই কারণে তোমার সাহায্য পাচ্ছি না আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ,
ও আল্লাহ, তুমি আমাদেরকে আমাদের ঈমান মজবুত করে দাও আল্লাহ, যাতে তোমার সাহায্য পেতে পারি আল্লাহ। তোমার সাহায্য ঈমানের সাথে জড়িত আল্লাহ। আমাদের ঈমান মজবুত করে দাও, আমল সুন্দর করে দাও আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, ও আল্লাহ, আমরা অত্যন্ত দুর্বল, আমরা চাই না আল্লাহ দুনিয়ার সাথে আমরা নিমজ্জিত, দুনিয়ার মধ্যে নিমজ্জিত আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, দুনিয়ার সাথে আমরা নিমজ্জিত, আমরা ডুবে আছি দুনিয়ার 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 সুরা সুরা পান করতে আল্লাহ। ও আল্লাহ, দুনিয়া আমাদেরকে আমাদেরকে মদের মতো নেশার মধ্যে ঢেলে রেখেছে আল্লাহ। তুমি আমাদেরকে উদ্ধার করো আল্লাহ, তুমি আমাদেরকে উদ্ধার করো আল্লাহ। তুমি ছাড়া কোনো গতি নাই আল্লাহ। আনতা ওয়ালি ফিদ দুনিয়া ওয়াল আখিরাহ ইয়া কাযিউল হাজাত। اللهم انك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. ربنا ظلمنا انفسنا وان لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة انك انت الوهاب. يا قاضي الحاجات، يا رافع الدرجات، يا حلال المشكلات، يا موجب الدعوات، برحمتك نستغيث. يا اول الاولين، يا آخر الآخرين، يا أكرم الأكرمين، يا أرحم الراحمين، يا راحم المساكين، يا ذي القوة المتين. ربنا تقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم. ربنا تقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم. ربنا تقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم. وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وعبد لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. الله